There's no way that you would feel comfortable working for someone who's demanding something from you that is not ethical for your patients. We took this oath of do no harm, and you are a part of that oath. That means you took an oath to do no harm to yourself. Hello, and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and today is going to be a great day. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to your resource for all things feeling good about yourself so that you can step out there and do good in the world. You know, right now, we are in a crazy time, and, I would not be in integrity with myself and my values if I did not mention this, because so many of you, my listeners, are experiencing a lot of overwhelm and stress in your world right now. And it is to be expected. I talk a lot about how we get energetic influence from our patients and from our teams and from our families, how sometimes the stress or the fears or the anxiety that you carry are not your own. They're really coming in on the backs or the hearts of your patients. And we take that stress on. And the same is true for what we're experiencing in our country right now. The collective stress is palpable, and we end up carrying it. And today I want to just talk about how one of the ways, or some ways, that you can give yourself permission to put down some of that stress. It feels big right now. It feels big. It feels like an urgent time, and it is. It's an important time, and big realizations are being uncovered, not just in politics and in our government and in the powers that be, but within ourselves. There's an awakening happening, and there are lots of atrocities happening. People are getting hurt. Innocent, kind, good people are being hurt. And what it's doing is it's waking everyone up. And that stress and that fear can sometimes feel paralyzing. And I know you have some experience of this in your own personal life. When we go through something really big, it can be hard to get out of bed in the morning. It can be hard to motivate to do the things that allow you to feel good, like working out or getting outside or meeting up with friends or reading a book or turning off your social media. It almost feels like a responsibility, our minds tell us, to constantly check in with the news. And what I want to give you today is a little perspective shift of the critical importance of taking care of you. And what that looks like for you is different from what it looks like for me, is different what it looks like for anybody else. And that's actually a really important point, because often we look at other people who are inspiration to us, heroes in the community, and we think, oh my gosh, she's doing so much, and who am I? And we start self-shaming ourselves and saying, wow, I'm not doing the thing. I'm not getting up and taking action in the way that she's taking action. And we lose sight of the fact that each one of us has our own battery length, our own battery life, social battery, energetic battery, even physical energy in your body. We have a different length, a different capacity at any one point in our lives. I mean, even within your own body, you've had many seasons. Some seasons where you were able to go a little further faster, and others where it really asks of you to go inward and recover and rest. And giving yourself that permission is critical. I'm just going to call this out right here, right now. This very big fallacy that we've expected of ourselves in healthcare And I'm speaking to every woman out there who has cared for, healed, been the doctor of, the dentist of, the nurse, the chiropractor, the mother, the nurturer, the daughter taking care of her mother or her parents. Any one of you who has looked after or healed or nurtured or taken care of someone else, and I know that's every single one of you listeners right now, I am talking to you. You know that when you are depleted, when you are overwhelmed and exhausted, you are not of the same quality of good and support that you are when you feel refueled. It's not a question. When you get a good night's sleep, let's just start with fundamentals. When you get a good night's sleep, you are so much more able to access intelligence and compassion and patience. 3 very important virtues in leadership and as a healer of others. Critical, absolutely critical to have access to intelligence, patience, and compassion. And that's what we are demanding of our leaders right now. Absolutely important. And we cannot go further with productive change in our society or in our lives without those. So what does it mean? It means you need your rest, babe. It means you deserve your rest. Even if you are in a critical caretaking position, even if you are caring for someone who is very ill, even if you are caring for multiple people, even if you just opened a practice and you now feel the burden and responsibility of holding financial support for your team and you know their families are relying on their paycheck, even if your mind wants to tell you there's no time for rest, this is the time for us to step into our power and recognize the critical importance of it. Because we are not effective when we are drained. You are not effective when you are drained. You know, my first 2 babies were born very prematurely, and some of you have heard me mention this on the podcast before. I was so stressed out owning my practice. I was so worried all the time. I worked around the clock. I only saw patients 3 days a week, but I was in that practice 7 days a week doing treatment plans, doing QuickBooks, doing Align treatment plans and submitting them, reviewing, tracing CEFs, writing letters to referring dentists, working on marketing. I mean, I was constantly working. I actually had a home office. I saw my patients down, and we had a split level, and I saw my patients down on the lower level and my family was on the top. So that meant at night after I put the babies to bed, I went right back downstairs and kept working. No boundary setting there. I had to learn very, very early on in my career because I started with 0 boundaries. And my first 2 babies were born very prematurely because my body was just washed with cortisol and adrenaline all the time. I didn't know how to rest. I didn't give myself that permission to rest. Everything felt so urgent. I had a new family. My husband was still in residency. He wasn't making any money. In fact, we were spending a ton of money on his tuition. I had just bought this house. I'd bought the practice. I had so many people relying on me, an entire staff of women. And I thought, if I don't take responsibility for this, what's going to happen to their families? They're relying on their paychecks. Everything felt huge and heavy and urgent. And every time there was a family urgency, someone got in a car accident or somebody got sick or somebody needed help, I felt the responsibility of standing up and taking care of them. And so 24 hours a day, my body was in fight or flight. I swear, even when I was asleep in my subconscious mind, because I would wake up in the middle of the night thinking about that patient's treatment plan, that mom who complained, that situation in my personal life. It didn't matter what it was. There was this constant talk track of stress. And when my babies were born prematurely, and I mean almost 2 months prematurely for my oldest, she was in the NICU. And at the time, that hospital did not allow me to stay overnight. So she was in the NICU for weeks on end. And I would go home at night and pump in the middle of the night, every 3 hours. I'd wake myself up to pump, to just get some milk for her so that I could bring it to the NICU the next day. And my body would not produce milk. It couldn't, because I was so stressed out. See, biologically, our bodies shut down certain processes, certain phenomenal, miraculous capabilities in order to keep us alive. Is a survival mechanism. And my body said, sweetheart, you are fleeing from something so urgent. My mind was telling me I was in so much danger that it shut down parasympathetic nervous system release and rest, which is imperative for milk letdown. And I could not produce milk. And I'm using this as an analogy to show you, because every single woman out there listening understands this. We cannot feed, we cannot nurture, we cannot give when our bodies are fighting to protect our own safety. You see that analogy right there. We cannot give in the way that is integrous, that is in alignment with our values, that is intelligent, that is supportive, that is nurturing, when we are shutting down. Please hear that. I remember thinking that I could sacrifice myself, and I would happily. I would happily sacrifice myself for my daughter, for my babies, for my friends, for my mother, for my children, for my patients. I would happily step in line to receive, any kind of insult or blow to protect someone. I mean, that's a part of my value system, and I know for so many of you as well. But notice that when we sacrifice ourselves, there is nothing left. There is no person to protect. There is no human to hold your practice. There is no doctor to step in and care for your patients when you are sacrificed. And maybe this right now is a little moment of awakening when you realize, oh my gosh, I have been exhausted for a very long time. And I have been practicing exhausted. I have been practicing overwhelmed. And, I'm going to get real with you here. I'm going to really bring up something very sensitive that maybe is a moment of awakening that you need now more than ever, is that we took an oath to do no harm. We took that oath, and we take that very seriously with our patients. We double check and rethink and go over every treatment plan. We're very careful. Am I offering this treatment plan from a place because I need the money, my practice needs the money, or is this what the patient actually needs? I know you. You take this very seriously. There's no way that you would feel comfortable working for someone who's demanding something from you that is not ethical for your patients. We took this oath of do no harm, and you are a part of that oath. That means you took an oath to do no harm to yourself as well. This is an important moment. How have you been harming yourself under the guise of taking care of and supporting and healing and taking responsibility for the commitments that you've made? How have you been harming yourself? Because you and I took an oath not to. Do no harm to everyone else and just harm yourself. Because actually, that is not possible. We are not separate. And this is a really important moment. And this is why right now, at this point in our country, things feel so heavy, because the pain you feel is universal pain. The reason why you are feeling so stressed out and overwhelmed when the whole country is feeling stressed out and overwhelmed is because we are not separate from one another. We feel each other's pain. And you cannot heal others if you are broken and exhausted. And the really hard thing for many women and healthcare providers to accept is to turn that around. Starts with taking care of you. It does. It has to. It's like that Michael Jackson song, I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Taking care of others has to start with taking care of you. And I know that's the hardest thing to do when you have been sacrificing yourself for your family, for your community, for your friends for so long. So there's a grieving that has to happen. There's a grieving for yourself, for all the harm that you've done to yourself. And let's be honest here. We always have choice. Always. You always have a choice. Sometimes our mind wants to tell us there's no choice here. I don't have a choice. I have to do this. The truth is you always have choice. And sometimes that choice feels very difficult to do. But our responsibility as healthcare providers, and dare I say leaders, is to take care of ourselves first. Because that does let everyone else off the hook. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, who is? Who are you expecting to take care of you? Your patients are showing up to the office every day in pain, in fear, in shame, in anxiety, in past traumas. They are not in a position to take care of you. Your kids, they're just learning. Your parents maybe never learned those tools of how to take care of you. So guess what? That responsibility falls on you. And I know that there's a part of you that wants to grieve the truth of that. But it's also a beautiful, empowering moment to remember you get to choose. So what do you need right now? And I think that sometimes when we start on this journey, we realize, oh my God, I need so many things. I'm not going to be able to help anyone for a while if I address all my needs. I need sleep. I need, to take care of my body. I need to start working out. I need to meditate. I mean, if I addressed everything I need, there'd be no time for anyone else. And I'm going to ask you to put that little fear thought, that little resistant thought to the side, because that is just old programming telling you that it's more important to sacrifice yourself. And that is no longer sustainable. We've witnessed that in our mothers and our grandmothers, and we've seen what happens as a result. And we're now here ready to evolve. And even in this moment that feels really big in our country and maybe in your life right now, and I'm going to argue especially now is the moment. Because in order to show up for the people who need us most in our communities, in our teams, in our patient population, in our families, they need us to stand up from a place of strength. We need our leaders to take care of themselves first, not expecting us to take care of them. We need our leaders to honor that responsibility first, and that is what you get to do for yourself. What do you need? And once again, only you know the answer to that. And I'm going to invite you to leave comparison for a moment and not compare yourself to everyone else who looks like they're doing such a great job on 4 hours of sleep. We know nothing about their stories. Let's focus on you. What do you need? And can you have the courage to take action? And then I want you to see how good you feel. I had this day yesterday. There are big things happening in my family. There are big things happening in my community. There are big things happening in my country. And when I was feeling low, and I was feeling exhausted, and I was feeling no motivation and no energy, I said to myself, you know what? This feeling will not last forever, but I'm going to honor it today, and I'm not going to push through. I'm going to rest and step back and take care of myself today. And I gave myself the entire day. And I woke up this morning feeling renewed and ready for this message for you, ready to record this important message for you. And notice it could not have come with the same impact had I not taken that time for myself yesterday. So maybe this podcast episode is exactly what you needed to hear today. I don't care if it's a Tuesday or a Saturday or a Friday. Every single day, what you need matters first. In order for you to take care of your neighbors, in order for you to take care of your patients and your family and your kids, taking care of you first. And I honor you for the courage to do so, because after decades of doing the opposite, this can feel wildly uncomfortable. But I'm going to give you that permission now, and then I'm going to ask you to, once you have given yourself, even if it's just a small thing, Notice the shift in your energy. Notice your access to clarity, to intelligent, calm, rational thought. Notice a little bit of patience before you react, a little moment of allowing yourself to consider, what am I about to say or do? And is that in alignment with what I really want as the outcome? Notice how much more access you have to your true self when you take care of you. You made this promise, do no harm. And our foremothers and forefathers knew what that meant. It's time to remind ourselves of that now. So what do you need? Because only when you feel good in your body can you do real good in this world. And I'm giving you that permission now. What do you need? Thank you for listening to the Business of Happiness podcast. If this episode brought you new perspective and value, I invite you to subscribe so that you catch all upcoming episodes and leave us a review. And if you know of a friend or colleague who could benefit from this perspective, share this episode with them and empower their day. For more information about the Business of Happiness and the Radical Happiness for Practitioners course, find me on www.thebizofhappiness.com. See you there.